letting adults speak. It's all high schoolers that are going to lead the way, and which is okay, you know, and hopefully my colleagues will listen. And it's not just about the legislation, it's about police-community relations, it's about investing in the communities, you know, after-school programs, education, making sure people are fed, making sure our young people have hope and opportunity, and they're picking up books and job skills and hobbies and not picking up guns. So it's not just one thing that's going to change everything, but we have to start somewhere. And it is really irritating when the news says Congress doesn't do anything, because there's a lot of us fighting to do something. And actually, there's Democrats and Republicans. We have bipartisan bills, but the truth of the matter is Speaker Ryan will not call the bills, and he's in charge. So if he doesn't want a bill to get out of committee or come to the floor for a vote, it doesn't come. So there's background check bills, there's closing and loophole bills, there's bills to keep guns out of dangerous hands, like we just got out of jail, you're a domestic abuser, that's actually my bill. There's a bill to change what's called the Dickey Amendment. One of former colleague, he died now, he had an amendment that you could not give resources to like the Center for Disease Control or NIH to do research on gun violence. And that wasn't his intention, but that's how it was taken. So no money has been given to collect data or anything like that for I don't even know how many years, many years. So we're trying to change that, because if you have data, then you can, you know what you're working with. So they won't bring that bill to the floor. I mean, they won't bring bills to the floor. I have bills for job training, bills for education. They bring nothing to the floor. And this is such a good example. As in Illinois, how elections have consequences, because we're 24 members down, so they're large and in charge. And if they don't want to vote on something, it doesn't get voted on. That's just the bottom line. But the public can have sway. I mean, I applaud everybody I see when I speak, because the Affordable Care Act is still the law of the land because of the public. You called, you texted, you wrote, you protested, you jammed their fax machines. People called so much they took their phones off the hook because they didn't want to talk to anybody else. You jammed their messages. And that's the thing that we're going to have to do around gun violence, because we're losing a generation of young people, and especially in the Chicagoland area. Not just in Chicago, there's places that actually, percentage-wise, like New Orleans and Detroit, actually are worse. Indianapolis, believe it or not. But I guess because we're bigger, and he likes to pick on Chicago because this is the home of the former President of the United States, and it seems like part of his agenda is just to undo everything President Obama did. But we need the public, we need voices, we need people calling in. And I know all of you live here, but if you have relatives that live in some of the red areas, we need you to call them and tell them to vote, because we will not change a thing until we change it in Congress. And we're hoping the kids will make a difference, but we have said that every time something happens, this will be the time, this will be the time, and it's never been the time. The other thing, and the voice I bring to Congress, is mass shootings are one thing, but let's not forget about who dies every day or every other day, and they don't stand up and give moments of silence for people who die by themselves. Well, I don't stand up at all. I feel like it's hypocritical. We stand up, we sit down, we do nothing. So I haven't stood up for 2 years. And at first I was the one lone one in my seat out of 435, but slowly but surely, so one person can make a difference. More and more people either sit down or they leave the chamber because they're not going to participate in a hypocritical act in many ways. So I just want to encourage you, to make your voices heard. And also, as I said, it's not just about the legislation, it's police-community relations and what we can, churches inside, the churches outside too, like what we're doing in the community to work with young people or work with people that, may be suffering or, lack of food, don't have a roof over their head and those kind of things. But keep the faith. I said this too will pass. And, hopefully he'll pass. Pass on to another job. And a lot of people ask me about the whole impeachment thing. And, you know, we're trying to let the special counsel do his job, but the other problem is we don't want Pence. Because if Pence comes in, he'll unify the Republican Party, and remember, they don't need our votes, they'll pass everything, so we don't want that to happen either. The Senate is a little more, not as irrational as members of the House, because, you know, the Tea Party, the Freedom Caucus is in the House. Not Ted Cruz is probably the only one in the Senate, so it's a little bit different than in the House. But we don't want Pence because we're afraid that then they'll really all come together. So if we could take back the House in November, at least we'll be the gatekeeper. And so whatever is passed in the Senate, even if we don't like it, we can stop it in the House, and it won't go to President Trump. So, you know, that's what we're hoping for, and we are working really hard. All of us are going, you know, all over the country to try to help, you know, where we can, you know, to help. But again, I do want to emphasize, it's not that we're there, you know, fighting, clawing each other's eyes out. I have a lot of bipartisan bills. I just got a bill finally out of the House where that speaks to dental care for low-income and rural communities and seniors. And there were 4 Republican dentists that helped, because they know how important it is, to help me get the bill out. So, you know, I have an agriculture bill because my district is urban, suburban, and rural. I start at 53rd and Cornell, and I go all the way to Kankakee County. So I have 1,200 farms in my district, too. So I say I have the city slickers, the suburbanites, and the farmers in my district. But, so we do work together more than people think. But the truth of the matter, since I've been there, Republicans have taken out Republicans that are moderate. So they're afraid to really show how they really feel because, you know, from the Koch brothers and others, they just have, I don't know if the more conservative ones have more money, I don't know, but that's what it seems like. And people have lost their seats, they've taken people out. But without the elections coming, my seniority is already going to go down 58 seats because so many Republicans are leaving. But unfortunately, it's some of the moderate ones too. So that, you know, you don't want someone all the way to the left and all the way to the right, because we'll continue not to get anything done. The other thing that I'm the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Health Brain Trust, so I work a lot around healthcare issues and, of course, just trying to make sure they don't continue to destroy the Affordable Care Act. They already took out the mandates, and people might think, oh, that's good. You shouldn't tell people they have to have insurance, but if healthier people don't get insurance, the insurance is going to go up for everybody else. That's just the bottom line. And, you know, we passed what they call a tax reform bill, and you know, your company might have given you a bonus, or you might see a little bit more in your paycheck for now, but that is temporary. And 83% of the benefits are going to 1% of the population, and a lot of the corporations, their shareholders are benefiting, not the people that work for them. And you know, when you give a bonus, that's not a pay raise, that's a bonus, because I get bonuses to my staff, and it doesn't increase my, you know, bottom line. So, so that's kind of a misnomer that people think they're getting, you know, all of this money. I know even if it's $20 more helps, but it's temporary. So just people need to be aware of that. The other thing I didn't know I was going to be so involved with, but I'm the ranking member on technology. And believe me, my friends laugh. They say, you, technology? But, I'm on oversight and government reform, and so I'm the head Democrat on the IT subcommittee. And we have been working a lot beside improving IT in the federal government. Those of you who know technology, and we're still using COBOL, which I know young people probably don't even know what that is. But yeah, it's crazy. So we're trying to modernize, but we changed the system that when agencies save money, instead of making them give the money back, we let them take the money to modernize. You know how, oh, if you don't use it, you lose it. We've changed, we've changed that thinking so they can modernize our equipment, our programs. We're also doing a lot of work around cybersecurity, of course, because they're in charge. We're not talking about the Russians and the election, but other things, because if you recall from the elections, that is true. The Russians did hack almost every Democrat in Congress, we all, including me, had to change our phone numbers. They had our phone numbers, our personal phone numbers, our personal emails, and we were getting crazy emails. I'm still getting crazy emails, crazy phone calls. I was in London with Jan Schakowsky because I'm on Foreign Affairs, and someone called her in London screaming about, why did you vote on a bill? Like, I mean, it was crazy. And they're out there right now, and they're being, you know, divisive with the bots and all of that kind of stuff, so it is going on. So it's very disappointing that we haven't really investigated it as much as we should, but of course, he wants to think he just won, you know, on his own and no influence. Not saying that they changed the votes or anything like that, but it's just the media influence, the social media and all of that. So, but on that committee, the other thing is I'm the co-chair of the Diversifying Tech Task Force, because we have to get more people of color, specifically African Americans and women in the tech field. It is terrible. I mean, Facebook just appointed their first African American to their board. And when you think about the uses of Facebook by African Americans, that is terrible. And so we're working with them. We call Sheryl Sandberg and to tell her, hey, you know, y'all got to do better. And we're trying to work with HBCUs and the tech companies, even though I didn't go to HBCUs, so I remind them there's black kids all over that go to all kinds of schools, you know, so we got to help, see how we can help everybody, but there's a big push toward that. Then lastly, I don't know how to say no, so I'm the co-chair of the Caucus on Black Women and Girls, and that's been around for 2 years, and it actually started, it wasn't our idea, it started from the 4 historically black sororities and a few other people after Sandra Bland died. And so they called me to see if I would be the chair. I said, I got a lot on my plate, can't do it by myself. So 2 of my colleagues, Yvette Clark from New York and Bonnie Watson-Coleman from New Jersey, we're co-chairs. And we've been having seminars all over the United States, New York, New Jersey. We've had a number in Chicago and Seattle about issues that affect black women, but not just saying, you know, we're victimized. You know, we talk about our challenges, but also our triumphs too, and how we can, you know, help lessen the challenges through policy, and how we can uplift and make sure we have more triumphs. So that's been going really well. We've done seminars on health and wealth. We did one here on sex trafficking. I did not know Illinois was number 3 in sex trafficking in the United States. It was amazing. We had it at the Holsky Center at the University of Chicago, and the things that we heard, but also what we learned, that the different agencies that deal with it, they need to work together more. And what we heard was, you know, don't think that, you know, when you think of a pimp, it's not the, you know, the guy in the fedora or whatever, it could be the guy in the hoodie. And just the stories were so amazing. We did one on daddies and daughters around Father's Day, how important a father's love is. We did one on intergenerational leadership, because sometimes younger people think older people don't know anything, and sometimes older people think younger people don't have anything to offer. So Adrienne has something to offer, and she listens to me too. But I mean, you know, so intergenerational leadership and how to have an appreciation of each other and what we all bring to the table and how we can learn from each other. So I have been busy trying to get all over. Like I said, my district is really long, and it's interesting, you know, just the different issues that come up depending on where you live. But first and foremost, I still know, you know, jobs, jobs, jobs. That's the key. And economic development and economic growth. And I just came from a church in the south suburbs, and the stores are closing, you know, like crazy out there. They're corporate decisions, and also millennials don't shop like everybody else. They don't want to go to the store, so a lot of shopping online. So things will never be like we're used to. You know, it's going to be different. There'll be more distribution centers than grocery stores and things like that. So I'm going to shut up and I'll answer the questions.
Thank you.
That was quick.
Regarding gun violence, I understand there's a national trace center in West Virginia that traces guns back to the crimes, but it's deliberately not computerized. Is there a bill to address that?
Yes, there is a bill to address that and to tighten the loopholes, and also we need to make sure that the local whatever the local police force is or whoever that they're reporting up. And people don't have the resources like you. We're in Chicago, so of course they have the resources, but there's little bitty towns that don't have the same resource. I have 2 police officers or whatever, so we have to make sure that all the law enforcement reports up nationally, so we know what's going on and there's a record of everything. But the other thing is, that's why people that are anti any gun reform, they don't want universal background checks because they don't want a record of who has a gun. Even we know who has a car and we know who has this, that, and the other, but they don't want a record of that. That's why they're fighting us so hard. And it's just, I always start, I'm not against guns. I grew up in a family of New York City cops. My grandfather was a big time hunter. My nephews are police officers here. People in my family have guns, but we're just saying that if you have a gun, have it legally, be responsible, and don't try to hurt yourself or me or anybody else, And also, my personal opinion is, I don't know why, people need a military-style weapon. But one, it's very sad, this story to me, you heard me tell the story that I went to meet with Steve Scalise. He's my colleague that was shot on the baseball field when the gunmen came when they were practicing. So when he came back, I said, can we sit down? I'm just really trying to understand where you're coming from and blah, 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 blah. So I went to his office. First of all, they made me, wait a long time. And then when I came in, they said, you only have 5 minutes. And so I, gave my piece to him. He still believes in silencers, even though if the Capitol Police did not hear the gunshots, more of them, some of them would have been dead and more of them would have been wounded. That's how they knew to come. And then he told me he didn't have a problem with bum stocks, and that was after Las Vegas happened. So, as I said, I'm a God-fearing woman, but when I walked out of there, I had no empathy for him because I feel like, God, you just don't care? So many people have lost their lives. I met with one of the band players that was playing, and when the incident happened in Las Vegas, and he told me he learned from that, and these are his words. He said, I come from a redneck family, and everybody in my family has multiple guns. We give guns to each other as gifts. And he said that after the shooting, he ran into his, how they have their bands, and he got his gun. But he said that it dawned on him, that's when it dawned on him, a good guy with a gun doesn't stop a bad guy with a gun, because how do you know who the good guys are? So if he ran out with his gun, how do the police know he wasn't one of the people doing the shooting? Because they thought that there were a couple of people shooting at that time. So, and I've met other people that own guns, and I tell myself, I'm not against guns, but this is just even getting to more and more of them.
What is bump stock? Is that someone's name?
Bump stock. It makes your regular rifle become
Well, I don't know nothing about that. That's why I asked.
No, that's fine. Yes, BUMP stocks. And the president, claims he's going to do the executive order, but the only thing is the problem with the executive order that could be changed. Like he's changing all of President Obama's executive orders. It's really better if it goes through legislation because then it's harder to change. So, and I think in Florida they just outlawed it, if I remember correctly. They raised the age, but the kids really want banning of assault weapons because of mass shootings. That is what takes people out so quickly.
Could you talk about what you think the implications of the Supreme Court ruling on gerrymandering may have in the remap that's coming up, and why it's so important that we have somebody with seniority who's going to be there for the remap process?
Well, I can tell you now, in Pennsylvania, it looks like we're going to pick up 5 extra seats, not extra, but 5 seats, because they undid the gerrymandering, and also in North Carolina, there's hope for us. So no, let me say this, elections have consequences, and that's why it's so important who the governor is, which party the governor is in. And so, whoever you want, I have my favorite, but if it's Rauner, then that's going to hurt us, going forward. But it is very important. the whole gerrymandering, because that's how, Republicans were able to take over. And also the other thing is, people always look at, especially when President Obama was saying, oh, he's the president, that is wonderful, he's the president, but it matters who your state rep and your state senator and, who your alderman. We have to look at the local levels. I live in the suburbs, who my trustee is who my school board member, I know you don't vote here, but who the school board member is, because that's how the Republicans built up their strength. They built a bench, and we did not do that like we should have done it, and so, people were happy President Obama was the president, but he needed some more, more of an army behind him, because believe me, after the first 2 years, they barely let him, he did great, because he was really working with one hand tied behind his back, because they were so negative about everything, and even when he said blue, when they said red, he said, okay, let me think about it. He came back and said, okay, let's look at this red. Then they changed it to orange, so, it was just so obvious. It was ridiculous, so, no, it's extremely important.
I'm sorry, I want to take it back to gun control. My son goes to University of Chicago Lab School. A couple of weeks ago, they walked out an effort to enforce gun control. At the elementary and high school level, can you recommend any next steps for enforcing that? And then I have two questions. One about your initiative for technology and girls, and do you have anything any association or affiliation with Girls Who Code, or how we can reach out to the youth, especially the women, to pursue that as well?
Okay, let me go back to you're saying what can the high schools do?
Yeah, they all walked out, elementary and high school as well. They walked out of school and had to speak out, and they had a rally in Hyde Park. I don't know if you were there or not, but they're very.
I was in D.C.
They're very deliberate about wanting to make a change. So I just wanted to know if you, being on the pulse of things, if you had a recommendation for an initiative.
William was a part of that.
Oh, fantastic. I still think that I think people are listening to young people. They're not listening to us, other legislators. So I think that they need to, if they can write, if they can call their legislator. Only thing is here, we're all in accord, but and also bring people in to speak to the young people around this issue. But I think just to stay active in the community around this. As far as technology, we started a STEM academy, but it was harder to keep up because the district is so big. We could do one thing in one group and then move around. But actually, through the Caucus on Black Women and Girls, we here have a advisory, and so we work with like Polished Pebbles, Dem the Femme, and different groups. I've gone to Black Girls Who Code, but we don't work directly with them.
You had the alliances that you might,
yeah.
But okay, thank you.
And then, it's like, I don't want to say hit or miss, but depending on, what we're doing. But we want to do, I was at a homeowners meeting yesterday in the 9th Ward, and so we met somebody that does a lot. I think, yeah, he's an IT teacher. So working with him, and then we work with someone that actually owns an IT company that tries to help us. It's just hard for us because we don't have a big staff.
Sure, of course, that's
and try to have alliances.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I don't know if it's under your jurisdiction, but I was wondering about, you know anything about putting a store at where old Dominic's used to be at on Southern First Suggestion?
Yes, under my jurisdiction. I get a lot of questions because the Dominic's left there, and where I live, there's a Dominic's that left also. And when people come to like different retail, when they come to Washington, D.C., I talk to them, about my district, but you can't make them put something in. But actually, where I live, finally Pete's is going to come, from what I'm told, to bring. But no, I don't. That's very local level. So I don't have any. Like,
Are you talking about on 71st Street?
Yeah.
But I thought something was coming.
There is. The alderman has worked that out. They're negotiating the lease deal.
Is it Pete's also?
No, it's not. I'll stop and say it's from the suburb, but it's like a Mariano style grocery store.
Is it gonna come?
It's really
But they've negotiated before.
No, we haven't. Yeah, I guess they are right. No, I know. And like I said, things are closing left and right. It's kind of scary. But also the other thing is, I worked for the village I live in now, and, you know, we felt there's a lot of retail racial profiling, like people put one more brush on an area and who they think lives there, what they can afford, you know, and all of those kind of things too. So we're always fighting, you know, those preconceived ideas about who lives in what area. But also the other thing is when stores come, we have to support them. You know, that's the other thing too. So they stay.
So you talked a little bit about how you have a technology committee. You said that you sort of brought the Silicon Valley firms to account that they do better in terms of hiring African Americans and I assume women as well. What was their response, and what are you doing to sort of shift their strategy on getting more African Americans in there?
Well, I started with the letter writing and calling them out on things, and then the Congressional Black Caucus brought them in. And now the Congressional Black Caucus has a tech task force, so they're actually going back out to Silicon Valley. So we're keeping our foot, I hate to put it like that, but on their necks, you know, about
I
that.
want the responses to why they don't have it.
We can't find enough qualified people, the same, you know, and then we tell them, that's interesting that you say that, because we know people, you know, in IT, there aren't enough qualified people, no matter what color, to be honest. There's not enough. We are losing ground to China. We had a hearing about it where China's graduating, I think like 350, we're graduating 63. So the other thing that's hurting us is our immigration policy, because people don't want to come to the United States anymore. Colleges are suffering. I'm on the board of trustees at Bradley University, and their international students keeps dropping because they don't feel comfortable here, you know, anymore. But we have to get more young people interested in technology. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And they said, how do you? It was interesting because they said, well, how do you make it like sexy? But you know, you see young people all the time with their stuff, but they're having a hard time, you know, finding people. But I think at a young age we have to get people into, you know, to our elementary schools and that kind of thing to show them how fascinating. We had one project where we brought a bunch of kids to South Suburban College, and they got a chance to speak to the astronauts at the International Space Center. Just like, it's not just one thing, you could do so many things. The same thing with healthcare, we're working to try to diversify healthcare. And it's not just about doctors and nurses, but it's a big field. You could be an entrepreneur in the healthcare field. That's what they're saying.
Well, what kind of skill sets do you use? Like, is it like more engineering, is it more like computer science? What is it?
That's a really good question, and you're asking, you know, a non-tech person. Somebody, who was I just with that told me, it was somebody young that it's the math thing that they think that stops people, you know, from going deep into it, because you know, we don't like math. And even I was meeting with some electricians, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and they were saying, we know that people think, you know, if you are part of this union, people think, oh, you couldn't go to college or you couldn't, but they told me you had to be good in geometry, so I couldn't do that either. I mean, the one subject I know, but it's math that's what a young person told me that stops people, you know, so, but I'm sure you have to have not so much engineering, but some computer skills too. I'm sorry. Okay, the Bulls have first.
Yes, see, I've been hearing a lot of this about how young people don't have, I think there needs to be a way to have a path, like when you're in high school, to have a path where, okay, you're in high school, you can learn these type of skills to be, like if you say you want to be an engineer, okay, if you have that thought in mind, then they need to have, like in high school, have certain skills, or if you say, okay, I want to be a doctor, then there needs to be a set of skills that they can learn, and then by the time they get to college, they can go for it. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, there needs to be some kind of way to get to where you want to get to. Because what I'm finding is, myself personally, I'm trying to do something else, okay? But I'm finding that there's no real path. I've done where they say, okay, well, you have to do like, sort of like an internship thing at the hospital. Okay, I've done that. Then that led me nowhere. Because the thing is, if you don't have anybody who's there that you know that can kind of pull you into it, then you're basically on your own. So you're sitting up here struggling, trying to get to where you want to get to, and you just can't seem to really get there. You see what I'm saying?
It's surprising that an internship doesn't help you, because for anybody, because I didn't know this either, but like the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, there's a foundation. We bring in at least 50 kids every summer. You have to have graduated from high school. We pay you, you work for a member of Congress, or you work for the foundation or something that the Congressional Black Caucus is affiliated with, and you not only work during the day, but in the evening. It's just like life training, development skills. And the last 3 people I hired, they were my interns. So it seems like if you did an internship, that should, open, some kind of door. But I remember, this was a long time ago, but when I was younger, I did like a, I can't even remember what you call it, but I filled out something and it showed where my strengths were and what I might be. And it's true, but I always knew I wanted to be in like public service, social service, and like that kind of thing. And that kind of guided me also, in what my interests were. But I know it's hard, and that's the thing why education is so important, and good people in education is so important, so young people have someone that they can go to, or mentors, or things like that. But usually internships and things like that work.
I don't know why. I don't really know what's going on. Sometimes you get into situations where, you work with people, people think you're okay or whatever, but then you try to, because I even tried to connect with some people while I was at the hospital and say, well, I'm interested in doing, working in the hospital, what do you suggest I do? Well, you've got to kind of go to HR, and then I did that too. So I said, okay, well, I'll go.
So the thing is, you got to keep trying, because if you don't try, then try a different hospital. Right?
Yeah, I've tried a few different ways of trying to get to where I want to get to, but it's just
stay the
difficult.
course.
I'm still doing it.
I know you think I forgot you.
While this is a more local issue, it's about the Obama Library. While I think it's a great idea, the closing of Cornell and the major construction that would have to go on South Shore Drive and Jeffrey to connect those 2 golf courses, have they consulted you at all about that? And no.
I hate to admit that to you, but no. I happened to be at UFC with that little piece where they have their office, and I saw Mike Strautmanis, because of course I know him from Washington, D.C., but no, not really. We haven't, Dick Durbin and I went to one meeting where we met with him. That was such a long time ago, but no. And actually, for me to come, they never had a meeting, because I leave on a Monday and come back on a Thursday, or leave on a Tuesday and come back on a Friday. So if you have a meeting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I can't come anyway. But I would send staff, but no, we're not really involved at all, to be honest.
That's not a good thing.
And haven't been invited to be involved, so it's that, because we would be.
Just a question and a comment. The first comment is that if anyone doesn't know it, you can early vote. I've already done it, and so please do it. And then secondly, a question about gun control. I watched a program on TV about how you can order parts of a gun and put them together, no serial number, in 2-3 hours you can have a semi-automatic weapon. do any of your bills or anyone else's bills include that? Because that sounds like a huge loophole.
None of my bills, but there's other bills that deal with that. Also, we're trying to close all the loopholes because people say, oh, we have background checks, but not if you go to a gun show or if you do it online. And the other thing is we've met so many people have just gotten out of jail, got a gun, walked in and purchased a gun, and then we met one mother where the ex came to her house and was shooting through the door, and the 6-year-old was there, but she had her hand up, so she was shot through the hand, but he wasn't successful, thank God. They're all alive, but it's just so easy. And like after Parkland happened, I don't know if there was a thing going around Facebook where the kid said, I can't buy a beer, but I could get this gun in, a very short period of time. The other thing is, if you remember Charleston, when the 9 people died, that when you buy a gun in the store, there's a background check, and they have 3 days to do it. But if the answer comes back, unless it comes back absolutely no, they can still sell you the gun. That's what happened with Dylan, that it came back and they weren't sure. So the store still sold him the gun. Now, big stores don't do that because they have a lot of cash capacity. But if you're a mom and pop, and they still sold him the gun, and then it came back a couple days later not to sell him the gun. So we're trying to close that loophole also. There's just so many loopholes, and people say there's enough laws on the books already, just enforce those, but they just have loopholes, so, that's the problem. I did want to touch on real quick, because I'm on foreign affairs, so I did go to South Korea and Tokyo earlier, and for 5 minutes, or maybe 5 seconds, wasn't 5 minutes, to North Korea, and we jumped back over the line. But we met with the Chinese, the Japanese, and the South Koreans. They told us over and over and over, they didn't want President Trump to be immature, and talk about we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they really wanted us to do everything, but war. They want diplomacy, sanctions, and all of those things, because there's 10 million people that would be blown away right away. And there's a lot of Americans that live in South Korea it's not just military, they teach, or just different reasons. So I don't know, like now, it sounds like there might be an opportunity, but things change every tweet with him, so we really don't know what the real deal is. Hopefully we'll find out when I go back. We go back on Tuesday, but the deal really is, and Lord knows we don't want him just meeting with the guy, and I was told actually that the Russians have something to do with it because it's something they want. So that's how really this has come about. So it's more than meets the eye, I'm trying to say.
Is that going to be possible? I mean, no other president has met with the leadership of North Korea, so again, Trump is so volatile.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him to be the person, but also, I mean, I think the reason he's meeting with him now is because he has the weapons and the missiles. That's, he's the big boy on the block now, so that's probably why, one of the reasons why, he's agreeing to it. But it's really, if you go over there, it's so sad. The North Koreans, now, a generation has passed, they're much smaller than the South Koreans. Their food is rationed, and they have a fake village that we saw, and they just play music to make people looking think that there's a lot of good things going on. No one even lives there. It is unbelievable. And one family, they were coming down the river, and they went over to the South Korean side, and so they didn't want to stay on the South Korean side because they're so, brainwashed that they don't. But when they kept them for a week, then they didn't want to go back to North Korea. But they, very brave people, dropped literature and all kind of things, so people know you are not living the, the good life. I mean, I think they eat like 1,500 and that much calories a day, and it's very sad. But some of them don't know any better, or they're scared to death because if they leave, then their family will suffer.
First of all, thank you for coming. Second of all, one of the reasons we wanted to have an opportunity to do these things and share some of our concerns is because Bryn Mawr Community Church is located in a community affected by every kind of ill that's out there. But it's a community church that has been here for 100 years. 100 years ago, it was prayer. Over the years, the church was open every day, serving all sorts of people, regardless of what their faith was. And we're trying to get back to that. And we're starting out with the idea of anti-violence and looking at what can we do through a foundation that we've created to affect that violence. And as we look at it, we realize it's many things, as you have said. It's whether people are educated, it's whether people have food, it's whether people have a sense of self and a respect for themselves. And so we are at the beginning stages of trying to do that. You mentioned a couple of things that I would like to partner with you on to be the local resource, because politics is local, decisions are made local. But with the technology initiative, anytime we want to have something in Chicago, we would be happy to make that happen. So if we have a big church where many people could come, and we want to be seen as forward thinking. The other thing is healthcare is a very important issue in this community. Trauma centers closed, trauma centers open. We want people to be able to take care of themselves. So if you have an initiative that you want to start, I would love to partner with you so that we can get people here to understand what's available to them and what they can do. You said that we were talking about the gerrymandering, that if the governor is a Republican, that it should be create the map of it.
Well, they sign off,
They
yes.
sign off on the map of who's.
Even though other people have their 5 cents in how that
But
looks, but.
what group of people are in a particular district? And that's important to who votes and who gets elected. So we'd be happy to be, or I would be happy. I won't speak for everybody. I won't speak for the foundation, but I will say that I would be happy to make sure those things happen. If there's an initiative that can start here, we would be happy.
We do a lot of projects, and we're trying to, like 2/3 of my district, not in Chicago. Chicago's 1/3 of my district, but we're always looking for places in Chicago to do things like, with Greg Mitchell, we've done a couple of health fairs where, we just need a place to set up, we come in and do everything. And then he'll put a back to school thing with it. We're gonna bring a housing event to Chicago. I've done it in the south suburbs. When I took office, my district, the 2nd Congressional District, had the most foreclosures of any district in the state of Illinois. And so we wanted to do something to lessen that. And it was a combination of things, people going for hokey-doke loans and, people losing their jobs and, just a combination of things. So that's getting better, much better. But we're going to do a housing event. But no, I would love to, because we're always looking for, places to hold various things. So, and even Black Women and Girls event, we would love to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much again for sharing with us. I work with a group of young people who we do a lot of service in the community. And they are very interested they're also going to do some protests around gun violence. But when you say they're listening to our young folks, they really want to make sure that their voice is heard and to be as impactful as possible. So if you're thinking about letter writing campaigns, if you were thinking about who would you tell a group of young people? Who would they write to? Who would they talk to? Who would you?
I would write to Speaker Ryan, with McCarthy,
Okay.
because they're the ones that decide. I would write to President Trump. I would still write to like Chuck Schumer, but many of us are with the program, but and also the other thing is, even if we brought a group of, when I first came, a group of moms that lost their children to DC, just so they could hear the stories. But you'd be surprised, some of the moms said, those people are cold. It's like I don't get it, And I said when I spoke on the floor, I said to them, you were 20 grown men. Do you remember the terror that you felt on that baseball field? Well, imagine people that feel that, walk in their neighborhoods, in the park, don't want to walk to the store, just all of that. Do you think of that, and you all are grown men. All of these people are not, grown men, but it's amazing to me. But I think some of them get it, but they're afraid. That's the truth. They're afraid that they're going to come after them. But sometimes, you got to lose because of your convictions, if you know you're doing the right thing.
What's the current move on criminal justice reform?
There was a big push. Again, the Congressional Black Caucus went to the Republicans, and they were really working together to get things done, but they just kept watering it down. So there's a move for change for different reasons. Like on the other side, they want to change because it costs so much money, to keep people in jail and blah, 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 blah. But on the other side is more moral reasons, like, do you want to keep people in jail, or, do you want to do preventative work? But to me, it's gotten lukewarm, not the big push, because of, who's around. So, and also, I was speaking to one of my police chiefs, and he said that he felt when the Department of Justice came, they were trying to make it us versus them. And what he told them, that no matter who you are in the community, we need to do it where all of us are together. Police community relations, not, the cops are all the good guys and everybody else, is the bad guy. We need to learn to work together, but that's their, their attitude. They're not very forgiving, or they don't think about prevention. And we had I always forget about this one. We had a Black women and girls in LA, and it was around women that just either went to prison or just gotten out of prison. And this young lady spoke. She stole one pair of underwear from Ross. And she said, she was cracking the joke thing because it was later, but that you looked at the underwear, it wasn't because they were beautiful or anything like that, that she needed underwear. And she got caught. They went to her mom, who I think, I don't know if she was alcoholic and depression or something like that. And the mom told the police, oh, just take her, I don't want. And she was 17, so she went to prison. And I mean, that is ridiculous. Someone should have looked into, what was going on. But when they told their stories, how some of them wound up in prison, it was so sad. But that young lady is now an elected official in LA. I mean, there were good stories that came out of it too, because they happened to meet the right person, or whatever. But I don't feel like we're talking about it as much. And I don't know, like the Judiciary Committee, they just feel that it's not going to go anywhere right now. There was also a police community relations task force started out and on it, but they started it. We went to DC. I mean, we were in DC. We had something. Detroit, Houston, and Atlanta. I could not get them to come to Chicago because I wanted to have meetings with the community and the police and in Chicago, and then do it in the suburbs, but I haven't gotten them to come yet. So I just feel like if you don't come here, come on, that they're not, their heart is really, they're just going through the motions.
So we talked a little bit about the fact that we live in here about the dominance. We talked also about the lack of safety and security, so I'm not going out and doing exercises until they need to. We have a diabetes education and support system here in Bryn Mawr for some 19 years. I'm wondering what you know about funding to help fight the rise of diabetes, and what kinds of resources and grant opportunities might be to address education at the community level.
They're working on our budget now, and it's under this administration. It seems like grants have dried up. We have someone in the office that looks, so we can, I can let them know that there's constituency interested in grants in that arena, and we can keep an eye out. Normally, we, bring in, like the mayors of different elected, or group that are looking for something to, so that we can keep an eye out also. I don't know if you have anyone that watches, what's available, but we're working on that right now, the budget right now, and would be appropriated to see what is going to be available. So there are people very, in fact, there's a diabetes caucus, and I went to, they went and met with people in Cuba because the way the Cubans treat diabetes, they have less amputees and all of that. So, but because, under President Obama, it was okay, but because of, what he instituted with eating, and I don't know if that's stuck in his will, but I'll tell my staff to look out for that. Thank you guys so much.